Good morning. Hand today is going to be pocket eights. We're playing five-handed, 10 NL. We get a limp, basically from the cutoff. This player's paying 50% of hands. He does raise first in. He's been raising maybe about 6%. So with this player, I think he's going to have at least 50%. And this is kind of what I did. We could look at, what is 6% for the raise? And it's probably something like this. So I'm going to assume he would raise with all these hands, and then we still have the rest of these hands to play, which gives us about 52%. I don't think it's going to hurt if we're a little wider at all. So this guy's massive range. Folds to the small blind, who also limps. Now I have 6 hands on him, and right now he's played 100% of his hands. So I could assume that in the small blind he's probably playing 100%. He does have pre-flop raise in him, so I would assume that he's a normal player who would at least make a 3-bet. So I'm going to have basically 100% minus these hands that I would have assumed to have been a raise at some point. So not a 3-bet because we didn't have a pre-flop raise, but definitely a raise. And then it's on me with 8s. And I just checked, and I think this is probably a mistake here. We've got 2 players that are loose. They're playing a lot of hands. I guess you can go, a different way of thinking. One, I'm building a pot with a mid pair because, if I raise, there's a good chance that both of them call. The other way to look at it is, I have mid pair and both of them would call. I figure, my raising range figures to be ahead of their calling range, and I want to take advantage of the fact that they're calling way too much pre-flop. So I kind of feel like this could be a spot where I could raise. Now we do know the stack sizes, so I start with about 65 big blinds. That's our effective stack. Maybe I'm not deep enough to make this play, but I ultimately decided just to call or check behind. The decision between raising and calling probably isn't too far apart. They're probably close. So, splitting hairs over this decision doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So this is our optional isolating range. This is our always isolating range from the blinds. You can see 8s are in there. I think we're gonna go with this range since I just called and see how it plays out. Flop comes ace king 2. Not a board that I like. So with this, we don't even have a heart. There's going to be aces out there. There's kings out there. I guess if no one has ace or a king, I'm looking pretty good. Villain 1 checks. I assumed he'd check. He does donk flop. Well, he has donk one time. He's had the opportunity, but I don't think this is a board that necessarily calls for donking. I think if we were all rainbow, maybe. But in this situation, since it's checked through, you don't ever really have this opportunity to donk the flop. So, if anything, I think ace queen, ace jack probably leads. I think ace queen, ace jack might be in this guy's range. I don't think it's in villain 3's range. So, villain 1 checks. I'm checking here. Really, just to see what's going to happen on this player. And he bets 1. He bets a third of a pot. This could be a big bluff. Could be a big bluff here. Could have, gut shots, flush draws, maybe 2-card backdoor straight draw if we add it here. So we're looking at, that adds 4%. Maybe he has nothing. Maybe no made hand on this one. So, maybe he's just betting. I do think he is loose enough to where he could do that. So I've got 100% of hands here. Villain 1 folds. So now it's on us. What do we do? We shouldn't have any of these big hands. We shouldn't have aces. We shouldn't have kings. We shouldn't have ace king. We could have flush draw. So because of that, I don't think we can check raise because I don't think we have any strong hands in our range. That being said, I do think we're calling with top pair. We're calling middle pair. These lower pair, 7s and 8s. I think we're calling with the flush draw, with a gut shot. 2-card backdoor, I think, could potentially, but I kind of have to look at it saying, I only invested my big blind in this hand, so if I fold, that's all I'm out. I could have folded pre-flop if I wanted to. So it's not a huge investment at this point. I don't really want to invest any more and lose a whole lot on a hand that I just saw the flop for free, basically. I did call. It was 1 bet. 6 of clubs comes out. Now, if I'm ahead, I'm still ahead. And I think here we can play it a little bit stronger. I think we could play it as a bet with all of our pairs here. And I think I would include our draws. Something like that, just to attack him. If he's bluffing, he's going to fold, and that's where 28% of the time we're going to get him to fold. We would realize our equity with the 7s and 8s, because if he has like queen jack or 10 jack, we're folding out hands that have a chance to improve to beat us, just with an overcard. So I think here this turn we should lead. I think it's probably a good spot to lead. If I bet, what does he call? Maybe he calls middle pair. I think he gives up 7-8. I think he gives up the weak pairs. The kings, and maybe he calls, maybe he doesn't. I don't think he's giving up the flush draw, so I think he's probably calling 39% at this time. If he folds the king, he's down to 27-28%. So I think this could have been a good spot to go ahead and bet the turn. Now he bets 1. I think at this point, I think I'm gonna eliminate these big hands and just say he's probably like a weak pair or on a draw. I don't think he would do that with no made hands anymore. Could be wrong, but I don't think so, and I do. So he called under the gun, raised first in from the big blind with 10-9 off. Check called, 10-8-5 rainbow flop, check down on a 10 and a 7. So when he turned trips, he checked. So I kind of think he's got, maybe he has top pair, maybe he's betting small with that. This is looking more like a middle pair. And if it's more than like a middle pair, I think we lost our opportunity to bet, to lead. So that kind of leads these like weak pairs. I think we're still calling our draws. Definitely the flush draws. Probably not our gut shot. Because I think even if we catch, we're probably behind to the king. Probably top pair, middle pair. And with this bet, I know it's a weak fold, but I think we're probably just going to have to fold our 8s here. And I think we can call with kings. I think that's going to be, that would have, I like betting the turn better. And our turn bet would have been 4 big blinds, maybe 3.5. All right, so rivers 4 clubs. We haven't bet yet. I think we just check to him. He checks behind. We get to see a showdown. I think with him, he's probably betting a straight. He's probably betting 2 pair at that point. So I'm guessing he's probably has one of these middle pairs or weaker pairs. So I show the 8s. He shows king 10. That is the middle pair that we had, king 10. Would he have called on the turn had we bet? Maybe. It's possible he calls with second pair. Would he call a river bet? Because I think if once we lead the turn, if villain just calls, I think we're going to have to fire that river bet again. Because we recognize the villain could have had the hearts. Or could have played the king, and we're hoping that that second bet's enough to get the kings to fold. I think that's how we would play it. So go back to our turn. We lead out here. Let's say he calls. I mean, he's going to call with all of those. And actually, he's probably going to raise the sets and 2 pair. So he would call with all of these. And then let's give the 4. He'd probably raise the straights. Yeah, we're looking at 34% because we're hoping that he folds his 20% that beat us. And again, he may have 9s and 10s too. And I think those are also, if those were in his range, those are hands that we're hoping fold, that we're targeting with that bet. All right, so pre-flop, I think either way, we raise, we call, it works out. I think the flop, we could say we fold. We only invested big blind. Get out of the way. He's betting, so I assume he's going to have something. Even when we included his entire range there, even when we included his entire range, I think we could be justified in just folding. It seems weak, but we have to think about the runouts and, all of the overcards to the 8 that could come, all the hearts that could come, any queen, jack, or 10 that could come. That's just going to be pretty scary to us. As played, once we get to the turn, I think our play is to bet. Bet 3.5 to 4. If he calls, I think we fire out another bet. It is going to be a bluff, but what we're targeting is a hand like this. Try to get them to fold. We're not really betting for value on the river. Instead, we're using our low pairs as a bluff. And I think I would do the same thing with our flush draw and with our straight draw when we make that play as well. So we are going to be somewhat balanced. We're going to have some draws. We're going to have some bluffs here, hoping that with our 8s, kings fold, kings and weakers fold. We know ace isn't going to fold. We know trips 2 pair, that sort of thing isn't going to fold, but I think we're discounting trips and 2 pair because I would have expected raises to be a little bit larger. And since this is a limp pot, I'm not really expecting ace king to be out there. I'm expecting ace x, so ace little. I'm expecting maybe like a king x, king little type hands. And I think we have an opportunity to pick up the pot at that point. So not really thrilled with how I played it. Think I could have improved it. All right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.